Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I'm gonna walk through a devlog for you guys. I just wanted to give you an idea of the different slides we'll be moving through. I'll talk about some of the specifics here in the table of contents and we'll jump right into it. Alright, first I'll talk about why I'm making this devlog. I'll then go into a brief description of my project. I'll talk about how the initial idea was formed, and then I'll talk about some of my design pillars that I'm using for this project, but really focus in on one of them. Then I'll talk about the core gameplay loop, I'll detail its pieces, and then we'll even walk through or play through a paper prototype of the game. I'll talk about how that can evolve, and then I'll discuss kind of the differences between a MVP or a minimum viable product and a vertical slice, and the benefits of both of them, and why I'm using an MVP at this stage. All right, so why am I making a devlog? Well, the first reason is I'd like to organize my thoughts. I'd like to organize the different aspects of the game and have them in a medium like Miro, where I can have a nice overview of things without having to dig directly into the game. I'm using Miro as a way to structure a lot of the things that I'll be putting into the game, and also as a way to remember what's there. So the other aspect is I'm hoping that I can educate some of you. I have a background in product management, so I might have a different perspective than people who are just game designers or pure game designers, right? Maybe they come from an engineering background, maybe a more artistic background. I come from the product management background, so hopefully I'll be able to give you some insight on a different way of doing things and how I approach different problems. Last piece is I'm hoping I can connect with you. I'm hoping that I can learn, that we can share ideas and make this an ongoing thing. I don't know the schedule I'm going to have for devlogs itself, but I did want to make this particular video to talk about my journey from idea or concept to minimum viable product. And I'm hoping that this resonates with some of you and you have some ideas that you can give back to me and say, oh yeah, I see that you've done it in such and such way, but have you thought about doing this sort of thing? So yeah, those are the three reasons why I'm making this devlog. So a description of my game is, this is a little wordy. I'm trying to get it a little bit better, but this is the easiest way for me to explain it at this stage. It is a non-linear fantasy adventure game focused on exploration and learning about its world. It's supported mechanically by utility upgrades and information upgrades that, when discovered, understood, and utilized, unlock new areas. Hopefully that gives you some sort of idea of the type of game that I'm trying to make here. If that doesn't do it, maybe this will be a better piece of the puzzle for you. This is the initial placeholder concept art that my wife and I made in Figma. Figma is just the tool that we both kind of know how to use, so that's the one we went with. We're not particularly artists, but we put some shapes together that describe the kind of world that is in the game. It's called Relics of Aurelia because it's about finding relics, these powerful, ancient, but cursed items in the world of Aurelia. And you can see that, hey, we're in a little cave here. We're doing some dungeon or cave diving. We can pick up this treasure chest, and out in the distance we see the ruined fantasy world that the game takes place in. All right, I'll talk through my initial thought process now. This looks kind of linear. It didn't happen linearly. I had like a big idea, then like a little baby idea, and then I listed some of the games that also bubbled up when I was thinking of these things, but in general, I kind of went from left to right. So we'll talk about the big ideas, and then I'll get into the little baby ideas that kind of answer them. So the first one is, where do item descriptions come from? Makes me think of games like Dark Souls and Hollow Knight, that have great item descriptions. And then it brings me to, what would it be like if you picked up an item and had no idea what it did? That makes me think of, Binding of Isaac, when you're first getting these new items and you don't know what they do. And you gotta experiment with them. And that brings me to, what would encourage you to find out more about the item? Well, in NetHack, it's cursed. So you gotta be careful about using items that you don't know anything about. And how should you find out about an item? Scroll of Identify, it's kind of all three of these guys here, right? How could this concept be fun? This isn't so much accusatory, it's like, what elements would make discovering item descriptions fun? And could I build it? That's probably the biggest question. Is this something that I have to kind of dream about and say, oh, this would be a cool idea to have, and hopefully someday it gets made? Or is this something that I could put together myself and start testing? So the idea, or kind of the answer that comes from this, where do item descriptions come from? The first thing I think is, they often speak directly to the player, not the character. You see that in games like Dark Souls and Hollow Knight. That's not all games, though. Some games do have a very diegetic way of getting that information across. There is a game that has a bestiary that has notes in it about the different monsters in the game, written by the characters in the game. And that's a great diegetic way of getting that information across. I'm totally blanking on that game right now, but it's typically that the game is trying to educate the player about the world. And it's almost as if there's a textbook next to a sword, and you pick up the sword and you open up the textbook, and the textbook says, oh yeah, this is a legendary sword that was used by such and such hero. It has this amazing fire attack, and it does this sort of damage to goblins or whatever, right? So what would it be like if you didn't have that textbook, you didn't have any item description at all? Well, maybe you would infer some of its attributes, but you would wonder what you're missing. And yeah, that brings me back to Binding of Isaac. You kind of just try it out. You can infer, hey, this looks like a knife, and the knife is kind of swirling around me where I pointed, so maybe I can do something with it, but you don't know until you're actually using it. Or you look it up, right? So what would encourage you to find out more about the item? One of the big things that might encourage you is the danger of using the item without knowing anything about it, an item. And this usually takes the form of a curse. You see this in a game like NetHack, where you can use an unidentified item, but it might be cursed, and you don't know if it's going to backfire on you. It brings to mind Path of Exile to me as well, because it reminds me of those specific nodes in Path of Exile where you make a trade-off. There's one node that's very powerful that says, if you choose this node, you're not going to be able to critically hit anymore, but you will never miss an attack. And you have to weigh it up in your mind. You're like, all right, is it worth it that I'm never going to be able to critically hit anymore if I don't have to worry about upgrading my accuracy? Have I already invested in accuracy? Is that a problem there? Knowing that there's a downside to something helps you make a better decision on if you want to go with the upside. Now, how should you find out about the item? Scroll of Identify. It's quite a common way to identify an item or learn about something, but what could be expanded upon here? Could this be fun in a different way? And how could this overall general concept be fun? Maybe it could be a mix of exploration, collecting, learning, then applying. We see the exploration and collecting in in Zelda Link's Awakening, it has these, and really tons of Zelda games and Metroidvanias and things like that, where you pick up an item, it does something that now allows you to go to a completely new area. You have the aspect of learning very well done in the game Tokitori 2, where the more you learn about the world, the more you can explore it. And then you have a game like Monster Hunter, where it's not just, oh, this monster does a lightning attack, so I'm going to bring the lightning resistance armor. It's, you know that a monster has a bony exterior, and you might not want to bring a slicing weapon to the fight. You might want to bring a bludgeoning weapon to the fight so you can crack through that bony exterior. And you learn this as you play through the game, and you become more powerful because of your knowledge. Now the kicker, right? Could I build it? I don't really code at all. I can probably put together Snake in JavaScript if you gave me 7 YouTube tutorials on how to do so, but I'm not, that's not really my skill set. But maybe I could learn a very easy to learn but robust tool like RPG Maker. You see, the sky's the limit with games like Lisa and Omori, amazing games made with a very simple tool. So I know that investing my time into this, it will allow me to make a game that I'm proud of if I take it to its limits, right? Alright, so I put together some design pillars. You'll see that they're kind of like dyads. I have a lot of dyads in my game. There's characters who have foils, there's kind of trade-offs of things. It just works well for me, I think, in terms of structuring things. Today, I'm going to focus on the first one, but to get an understanding of the game, it's that it should have uniquely rewarding exploration and efficient design. It should have memorable characters going on a nostalgic adventure, and it should be a unique and compelling world with an a la carte story. So to get into this particular pillar here, I'm designing it to be a sort of guided, nonlinear, or Metroidvania style exploration game with lock and key systems that combine utility and knowledge gates. We talked about the utility gates when it comes to games like Metroid and Zelda Link's Awakening, and then there's also the knowledge gates like in Tokitori 2, or maybe you're more familiar with Outer Wilds. I wanted to make a game that kind of combines these two aspects and have them kind of feed off of each other, because there's downsides to both of them. Utility items, you need to pick them up. Sometimes they are complementary to the other utility items. Sometimes they kind of cannibalize what those do, and sometimes when it comes to the knowledge gates, you pick up some information and you play through the game, and then you can never play it the first time ever again. And I'm like, all right, what if we combine those two? How can that maybe improve some of the downsides of these? So that's supported by this desire to have obtaining new information sometimes be even more powerful or useful than obtaining new items and equipment. All right, this is the core gameplay loop. It is explore, collect, strategize, overcome. So you explore, you enter an area you are unfamiliar with, and you begin to uncover its secrets. That should sound pretty familiar. A lot of games do that. Then you collect. You obtain powerful but cursed relics, and you discover information or clues about the different relics, as well as the obstacles that block your path. This concept of the relics being cursed is a way of balancing the relics. But all right, we collect these things. We collect the utility upgrades and we collect the knowledge upgrades. Then we strategize. You think of which obstacles currently stand in your way that you know about, what information you have about them, and which relics you have to deal with them. and then you overcome them. You execute your strategy by equipping specific relics to overcome obstacles that block your path. And once you've done that, you gain access to a new area to explore. So that is the core gameplay loop kind of laid out. I'll start now to get into some of the specifics of what I'm talking about. It's going to get a little bit more complex. Hopefully, I do a good job at explaining it for you guys. But I see this as kind of a lock and key system, and I've made a concept of key pieces and the lock. We have the lock, which would be like a boss standing in your way. It's an enemy that will block your path to a new area, and then there's these key pieces. The most important key piece is the relic. It is the key core. It is a powerful piece of equipment or utility upgrade. But there's also these other pieces, the information pieces. There's information on a relic that will tell you the relic's description, its benefits, and its curse. And also we have the last piece, the info on a boss, and that will have the boss's name, its strengths, and its weaknesses. So together, they all form a full key. And if we have the full key for a prescriptive boss that needs you to have this relic to beat the boss, if we have all this together, we know we can beat the boss. But what makes it kind of interesting is on subsequent playthroughs, you don't really need the information anymore. You can do a sort of sequence break and go in a different direction if all you have is the relic. Because on your next playthrough, or if you're experimenting a ton, you can go out and potentially have the key core that will defeat a boss that you don't really have the information about, so you can do things out of order. All right, to get a little bit more complicated, or this is about as complex as this is going to get before we pull back into some more general stuff and play through the paper prototype, I'm gonna talk about the concept of relic builds, because we just talked about this idea that, okay, a specific relic might be the key piece to beating a boss, but I wanted to expand it and make that feel a little bit less like a key and more like a strategy. So the concept of builds exists in the game. These are quick examples. They probably aren't the best examples, but I just want to showcase what I mean here. So we have one boss, and let's say we know this information about the boss. It has a large amount of HP, and it will only ever do magic damage. And we have some relics. We have relic A, and what we know about it is it heals you for 10% of your health every turn, but it makes it so you have 500 less HP than you would typically have. But we have relic B, and what it does is it gives you 500 HP, but the curse on it is it makes you weak to physical attack damage. If you wear both of these relics at the same time, you have this kind of build or combo where these two cancel each other out, and the result is you heal 10% of your health every turn, and you are weak to physical attack damage. This is a pretty good combo to use against this boss because we know it has a large amount of HP, but you will heal 10% of your health every turn, and that's some good sustain to have on a boss that might take a long time to beat because it has a lot of HP. We also know it only does magic damage, but you have a curse that says, oh, you're weak to physical attack damage. So it's not a bad curse to have when you are fighting a boss that can't really make use of the curse, right? It should also be said that your curse only applies and your boon only applies while you are equipping, while you have a particular relic equipped. As soon as you take it off, you lose the boon and you lose the curse. So maybe a little bit softer example of this is, you know what, that sounds kind of prescriptive, you need that exact build to win. Well, not always. There might be some situations where different builds might give you the edge that you need to overcome a boss. Let's say this boss has high physical attack, evasion, and high magical defense. And you have relics D, C, X, and Y. D and C together make a good combo, and X and Y together make a good combo. So let's check it out. Relic D has a boon where it allows you to attack twice per turn, but it lowers your accuracy. This one boosts your accuracy, lowers your magic stats. This is very similar to what we saw above. It just turns out that you can attack twice per turn, and your magic stats are lowered. It doesn't really matter that your magic stats are lowered because you're going to commit to a physical build for this boss. So it has high physical evasion, but you can attack twice per turn, so you have a better chance of connecting and fighting the boss. Well, what if we approach this a different way? We use relics X and Y. Relic X gives you access to an attack magic spell, so you can maybe throw a fireball when you are wearing this relic, but it lowers your speed. And Relic Y, it boosts your healing and attack magic, but it lowers your physical attack power. This is a pretty good combo too, because what it results in is you have high potential for a high damage magical attack, because you have the fireball and then you have the increased magic power, which makes your fireball attack stronger. But you're slow and your physical attacks are weak. Not such a big deal if you're committing to a magical build here. So hopefully your high magic stats will get past the high magical defense, and you'll be on a more level playing field. What won't work is just this concept of cobbling together any old relics and trying your best, right? This is intended to be something that you think through and strategize and make sure that you have the right information to get past a boss. And that you're engaging with all the mechanics. If you just throw on Relic D and Relic Y, you'll have a build where you can attack twice per turn with low accuracy, and you have good magic stats, but you don't have any magic attacks, and you have lower physical attack power. This is a pretty bad combo because you have low accuracy, you have low attack power, and you're committing to like an attack-based build, but you're not getting the benefits. You have some bad curses on you, so it's not going to get you past this boss. All right, now we are on to probably the most fun part of the video. This is the paper prototype. We'll actually play through the game. I'm just going to make this a different color so we understand it differently than the map. This is our inventory here. This is the map. We see the bosses that are in our way. We see some relics and information that we can pick up. So let's say we start right here and we pick up some relic information. We're exploring around. We found out there's a relic that does something. We don't have the relic, and we start to wonder what it would be like to be able to use that relic. We find some information about a boss, and we're like, okay, this boss has a particular strength and weakness. It's pretty interesting. Hopefully we don't run into it. Sounds dangerous. But then we pick up some more relic information. This one tells us, oh man, if we had this relic, it would be probably good against this boss, if only we could find that relic. Then we look over here and we say, oh wow, that's the boss. Once we find that relic, we could probably take it on. We find a relic, but it's not the one we need to get past the boss, but we have information on it. So we decide, hey, is this a good relic to use right now based on our current environment? Is this going to be helpful to us? Maybe we could use it. And we keep exploring and we find that relic that we know about, that relic that we know can help us against this particular boss. But we also find another boss, and we think to ourselves, okay, we don't know anything about this boss, we probably shouldn't be heading this way. But we have everything we need to take on this boss, so we can head north. We can take out that boss by equipping this relic. We head north, And then we find some information about our second relic. Or really the first relic that we picked up. We understand, we find some information about the boss that this relic might be useful against. And that feels empowering. All we have to do is find that boss, and then we can probably get into a new area. We pick up some information about a boss we haven't seen yet, again, and then we pick up some information about a relic that we don't know about. We can start getting excited about that relic. Pick up another relic. Oh, yep, we'll put that in the relic slot. Pick up another relic. We don't know what it does, and we're thinking, maybe we should use this, maybe we shouldn't. We know that a boss is weak to a relic, but we don't know that it's this relic because we don't have the relic information. If we run over here, this is where we can begin sequence breaking if we know this information ahead of time. But the guided path has us heading east. So we have the relic, the core here. We can now defeat this boss. We go into this area, we pick up this relic. We know what it does, so we can start using it, and then we find information about this relic, and it reminds us, oh yeah, there was a boss over there that this relic would be good against. So we go over there, kill that boss, we get past it, and then we get some information about that boss that we saw way back over here, and it starts to click for us. Oh yeah, now we have something that can take on that boss. We go down here, we beat that boss, and that's how we beat the game. So hopefully that's a good example of how the game is supposed to play out in a very, very basic form. We understand that all the pieces can work together pretty well, and maybe we can start expanding on how we build this. We can go past the paper prototype. Before that though, I just want to talk a little bit about the different types of gates that I'm using here. I have it in this kind of odd matrix that I've built. It's for my own purposes. I'm not sure if I'm going to be great at explaining this one since I'm still using it to kind of educate myself on what's possible. But I wanted to share it with you because I think it's pretty interesting. So I have this matrix that talks about hard gates, soft gates, sprints, and marathons. A hard gate would be something that is very prescriptive, where it says you need this specific build or relic to get past. A soft gate would be a little bit more optional. If you think about the differences between these, this would be more like solving a puzzle that has an intended solution, and this soft would be more about problem solving and making sure that you understand the pieces, but you can create your own solution. I've laid it out as the x-axis having sprint and marathon, and this talks about how long you'll be using the key to overcome the sort of gate and what kind of gate it is. Sprint I think of as like a quick gate. It is something that stands in your way, and then once you're past it, you're past it. And a marathon is something you might have to slog through. It's more of like an environment. All right, let's talk a little bit about what I mean here. So a soft sprint would be something like a boss that can be beaten using a variety of relic combinations. But a hard sprint would be a boss that can only be beaten if you equip specific relics. And if we talk about the marathon version of this, these are more like environments. A hard marathon would be maybe something like an icy, slippery environment where maybe you've played games where you hop onto some ice and you slide until something stops you. And the only way you could really navigate this place would be if you had the utility upgrade of like the spike shoes that let you walk where you want to go, and maybe the other utility of it is you kick a monster with it and the spikes go into that sort of thing. But for this particular gate, you would need those specific boots. If we talk about a soft marathon, this is more like a concept of like a fiery lava dungeon. It's a hot environment that drains your HP with each step you take. There's a few different ways you can handle this. You don't need the specific relic to handle this. You might need, or you might decide, I want to take a few more potions, or I want to use that relic that gives me HP back every turn. Something like that allows you to problem solve yourself, right? So what are the benefits of these? So when it comes to the hard gate, I think the curation of an intended experience is the benefit here. It allows us to, as designers, decide the specific order of things and really guide a lot better. The soft aspect of a gate allows for player creativity. That's a great thing to have. Too soft though, and you know the gates don't do anything. So there's trade-offs, right? If we talk about the sprint though, this is about bottlenecking specific areas. You can see these are monsters or bosses standing in the way of a specific area. And the marathon is, since it's an environment, it feels a little less gamey. It feels less like you're taking a key out, using the key, putting the key back. It's you're using the relics to explore the environment, and that should feel, hopefully, a bit more immersive and less gamey. I found some great use cases for these three, but I haven't found a great use case for the top right. The top right, this hard marathon, it feels like you don't get the benefit of making things more immersive because it feels like it's forcing you into something. I might feel a little strongly about that. This might have to do more with the labels or my example, but I have found good use cases for these three. So for a soft marathon, I think that's good all around. If that can be all over the game, I'd love that. That can be hard. That can be hard to design, but the more of this, the better, I think. And then my next favorite is this kind of soft sprint. This allows for bosses that bottleneck different areas that require you to have at least one specific key to get past, but maybe you haven't discovered another key that could get you past it, but you have the key and you can feel like you've created your own experience there. But remember, if it's too soft, it feels like there's no strategy needed at all, and that kind of falls apart. That's where you need at least some hardness with the soft gate. The hard sprint is useful for something like a tutorial boss or something that needs extreme guidance, like a specific area that you want to make sure that the character has all of the different pieces before they can move on. All right. Love to get your comments on this because this is something that is fresh for me, so I'd love to get feedback on it and how that resonates with you or doesn't. All right, this is a general, this is kind of like a paper prototype. This is kind of what the paper prototype evolved into. I added some, what is it called? Dungeons. I've added some, what is it called? Towns and different areas, and that's how the game is laid out at the moment. Those are all the relics in it, and this is probably the best example here of the transition. This started as an idea, it became a paper prototype that has all of the relics laid out in these areas. It's like a expanded version of the paper prototype, but this is actually the relics in the game. I then put it in the engine just to experiment with it, see how the engine would feel playing through a very, very small version of the game. You can see that these white rune stones here. They're different from the black rune stones. You got some chests. The chests I kind of added in there because I was debugging some crafting stuff that I might get into in another devlog. There's way too many chests here, but it used to be there's just 2 chests. But you have the clue that tells you, okay, this is what the boss does. Then you have a clue of what relics do. Then you have the chests that hold the relics, and you can move around the map and beat the bosses that are standing in your way if you're using the right relics. And then I expanded that to become the minimum viable product. This is what the game looks like right now. It's a it's a little bit more fleshed out than what's going on here. It has some pathing that is a little bit more interesting. It has an atmosphere, and it has its own NPCs and storylines. Very minimal storylines at the moment, just enough to get the player going. And this can be played right now. If you go to the link in the description, you could go download the demo, and you could play through all of this if you'd like to. And I'd love to know what you think. If you do, it'd be great to get some feedback directly on it. But the reason I'm showing it here is because this is pretty much a finished game. This could be considered a game with everything that's currently in it. It is a minimum viable product. And what's nice about this is it lets me make a foundation for the game. I can make all of the basics, and then I can replace the art assets. I can add some music. I can make some better animations and effects. I can expand upon the different areas, but the foundation is there. And if I need to tweak something very, very specific, I'm not wrecking too much if I get in there and I fix it. This is a really nice way of being able to prototype but still give a feel of the game. So it's horizontally, more horizontally focused or flat versus a vertical slice, which would be if you took one area of the game that had all of the gameplay aspects and you really, really polished it and you made it so it looked like it was about to be released. So a minimum viable product is good if you want to test and iterate quickly and get it out there and get it into like early adopters' hands. A vertical slice I would find to be a little bit more helpful if I was looking to maybe get a publisher, or I wanted to advertise the game and get people excited about the end result of it. That's not something that I'm focused on at the moment, so I'm really trying to just learn the basics and prototype really well. So that's why I went with an MVP. And I think this is a good way of doing things because it allows you to make mistakes, come back in, and fix them. Okay. Hopefully that has been helpful to some of you. I'd love to get your feedback in the comments, but that has just been my journey towards making a game. I'm excited to work on the story, work on the side quests, really start beefing this up. But I did want to talk about how I got from the concept stage to what is currently playable right now. So I'd love to know what you think, whether it's about the video or even the demo itself, if you'd like to give it a try. It's about 5 hours of gameplay at the moment. There's aspects in it that I haven't discussed yet, but I might start making some devlogs about them as well. Those other design pillars that I talked about. But yeah, that's it for now, guys. Thanks.